Today we're beginning a ride down our main street here next to our development called Colbert. And we're going to take this down across the Flagler Bridge today and head south along A1A. Typically we go on the sidewalk, and maybe coming home we'll go along the local streets. And after we do that, we're going to head to Gamble Rogers Park. And then from Gamble Rogers Park, we'll take a look around and head back home again. Oh, it should be a very nice ride. A little bit windy. Hope it's not too windy on the audio. A little bit windy. So today I wanted to talk about a couple of things that are interesting. I don't only bike ride, but I have been known to do other things. I play a sport called croquet. I shoot old Western pistols, 22s, and I'm a photographer. I have been for about 55 years, and recently just said, well, I've photographed everything I can possibly photograph. I'm not going to photograph anymore. And I pretty much gave it up. I'm trying to get rid of my equipment. If anybody's interested in a Canon, I have 2 Canon cameras for sale and quite a lot of lenses. Just respond back to this video, and I will be more than happy to discuss with you a very, very fair price to get my equipment. So we're in PAS 3, gear 5, heading about 15 miles an hour into the wind. Battery's fully charged, just topped it off before I went on this ride. Since I adjusted my PAS levels, I've been having more enjoyable rides. PAS 1, I lowered the speed, so when I hit the throttle, I can walk the bike, meaning the motor will turn about the same speed as my walking. And that's nice if I need it up a bridge or a curb or something. Then PAS 2, I increased the speed range so that in PAS 2, I can go on a level surface, moderate wind, about 13 miles an hour. PAS 3, 15 miles an hour, which I'm doing currently. And PAS 4, 17 miles an hour. And PAS 5, about 20-21 miles an hour, depending on how I'm pedaling. So that's made it a much more enjoyable ride for me. When I don't need speed, I can just put it in PAS 2 and only pull about 30 watts from the battery, which should give me even longer distances before discharge than the 75 miles I got while riding in PAS 3 in gears 4 and 5, or 3 and 4 and 5. In about 5 different trips or so, I rode over 75 miles. And when I put the city bike into PAS 4, I was able to get over 50 miles and still have a lot of the battery left. So that's very nice. So as I said, I do other things besides biking, which I love. I also have a model train hobby. Built a layout in our front bedroom, which I'm now rearranging so we can use a bed in there again. It's an end gauge railroad. I can run 3 trains at a time two simultaneously on one track because the track's long enough and I can coordinate the speeds, and the third train on an independent outer track. And really nice when they all come together, passing the yard area in different directions. Very nice indeed. So that's a little bit about what I do. Probably why I don't publish more videos. Oh, and another thing, I also cook. And if you do watch these videos and you want to see one of my others, you'll see how I make a nice pasta meat sauce using pork sausage and ground beef. And soon I'll be publishing how I make a vegetarian marinara sauce. And that should be coming out. I think I'll be making that Friday. This is Friday. I'll probably be making that either tonight or tomorrow afternoon. So that's a little bit about what I do. Not just all one hobby or enjoyable thing to do, but I like to do a lot of things. As the urge hits me, I'm able to switch hats and do the other thing, do any one of the things that I mentioned appreciably well. Wow, this wind is really quite in my face. So it must be loud on the recording. Recently, I bought a microphone to plug into my computer for sound over and recording. Has a nice pop filter, and the microphone is suspended with some kind of rubber gasket, so it's not touching anything. Takes some vibrations away. And I bought, which arrived yesterday, a green screen. So I'll be, wow, this wind. I'll be putting on videos of myself over a ride if I'm going to explain a certain thing. And I want to show some additional video, or I guess maybe still frames. So we'll see what happens. I bet it'll be nice on the return trip. I suspect I'll have this wind all the way down to Gamble Rogers Park. I may have to pop it up to PAS 4 to counter the wind a little bit, but I am doing over 15 miles an hour. That's okay. We're passing on the right the Lehigh Trail, and we have gone on there a couple of times. One time I recorded it, and I'll be recording another trip on the Lehigh Trail. And up further north on Colbert is the Graham Swamp Trail, a little shorter, but I think it's actually more beautiful. Overhanging trees and boardwalks and things. It's very nice. So that'll be coming up in the future. I'll call it the Trails of Palm Coast or some such title. So if anybody has any questions about photography or cooking or N-scale trains or croquet, please leave me a comment. I'll be more than happy to get back to you with the amount of knowledge I know in all those subjects. Now recently, although I haven't received it yet, I took a course here in our community for becoming a golf croquet ref. And I'll tell you, it wasn't easy because the rules are very convoluted. I'm going to go a different way here. So I'm not so much in the wind. We'll cross over and take Roberts Road to where we want to go. And the traffic was kind enough to stop for me in both directions and allowed me to cross. That's a first. It's a very nice first. Even the cars making a right-hand turn waited for me. So that was very nice of them to do. I guess people are happy about the weather. Everything's been nice for the last few weeks. A few spats of rain, which we need just to water everything, but for the most part, we've had nice sunny weather that's been on the cool side. Not cold, just cool and comfortable. Today we're riding in the low 70s, and I just have a short sleeve shirt on and some dungarees. Didn't need the dungarees, but I wore them anyway. Now we're traveling on the sidewalk on Roberts Road. This is a little cutoff around the stoplight at Colbert and Route 100. And it's a little more protected from the wind. Not a lot, judging by these flags here, but a little bit. And the thing about Roberts Road, you have a shipbuilding place we just passed where those flags were. I think that's Boston Whaler is now in there. It used to be Sea Ray. It's Boston Whaler. And coming up here, we have some factories on the right, which were built about 6 or 8 years ago. And past that, there's a big development of houses on the left. And they're just breaking ground there now. And on the right, they have a rental apartment complex, which is another big place. So the population of Palm Coast is increasing. Now, in addition to all of that, on Colbert, the road we were just on, further south, they must have cleared 2 square miles of trees, burned them all, and they're going to put about 600 homes in there. Maybe 300 to 600, I'm not quite sure, but I thought 600 was the number I heard, but it could very well be a few hundred lower. But still, with all of this construction, it's getting to be quite more crowded than it had been. And when they're all completed, it'll be even more crowded than that, to the point where I believe they will make Colbert a 4-lane road with a few stop lights on it. So we're on Roberts Road, which is kind of a little shortcut to get to the Flagler Bridge, which we'll be going over. The difference being, on this road you can only go 35 miles an hour, and they do police it. On the other one you can do 55 on Colbert, and I believe 55 or maybe 45 on Route 100, which takes you right across the bridge. So here's the apartment complex they're building on the right, and I'll turn a little and show you what they did on the left. Can you see that? They cleared all that land on the left for single-family homes, starter homes, built by KB, which is known for building smaller starter homes. Good way to get into the housing market and then work your way up from there. On the right, look at the atrocious color of these things. I mean, it's kind of a green and whitish, not very nice. But That's what they did, and now we're going to have all of those high-density residences on the road. Those people will be there driving. Here's more. I don't know if you can see that either. So what used to be nice, I guess, woods and vegetated areas are now going to be residences, single family and also apartments. Oh well, such is life. That's how things go, no matter where you live. At least it's a beautiful place to be from. It's a beautiful place to be from still, and very nice. So now we're coming up to a stoplight. On the right is our Publix supermarket, strip mall. It has a new Mexican restaurant in it and some other things there. But most notably, it's the Publix supermarket, closest one to my house, and very nice people over the years. We've gotten to know the people who work there personally. Not so much out of the store, but when we go in, we talk about how they're doing. Now we're coming to the light here at this is the light at Route 100, and we'll wait till the light changes, and I'll scoot across. I'm going to scoot across to the bike lane on the correct side of the road. Here it is. Okay, car again was nice enough to stop, even though I had the right of way with my turn signal indicating pedestrian could cross. They were also making a left turn, and you know, would have come right into me. I think that light should be changed a little bit to prevent the left turn being made when they're letting pedestrians cross. But no problem, people have been very courteous this trip and have stopped to let me go. Now I am in PAS 3 and year 4 to go up the bridge, and typically this is a nice easy climb at 15 miles an hour, although the wind may hold me back a little. So far, no problem. There's the wind. I knew it was here somewhere. I'm going to go up to PAS 4. That got me back to 15 plus miles an hour against a strong headwind. I don't know if you can see the view, but quite nice. If you can see that below here, see if I can stop. That's the Intracoastal Waterway. Maybe I can give you a shot down here. Heading south. Not too many cars out today. I meant to say not too many boats out today. A few on the north side, but nothing south. Now we're over the hump of the bridge and heading up over 18 miles an hour. Typically we get it past 20. There's 21. Going in the other direction, I put it in PAS 5 and was able to do 29.8 miles an hour going down that side of the bridge. And that's always a lot of fun. But today we're just going on eastbound. And I have it in PAS 6. I'm going to make a right turn here rather than go down the main street on the sidewalk, because there are a bunch of pedestrians there typically. And if I head this way a few streets, I can bypass many of the pedestrians. Okay. Went back to PAS 3, gear 5. That's a sweet spot for me. PAS 3, gear 5, PAS 2, gear 4. Gonna turn here. One thing about this bike, the Cityrun has turn signals, but there is no indicator to let you know you've made the turn, to turn the turn signals off. And if they just had a tick sound or something, that would be very nice. Thank you. Now we'll be heading on the sidewalk along A1A. You can see there was a pedestrian there, so you have to be a little more careful. I put in PAS 2, which allows me to go a little slower and watch out for pedestrians, and I think they're appreciative of all that. We're now at 8th Street South. We're going to be heading down to something in the 20s, maybe 25. We'll see what happens. Again, it's a little more open here. Fewer pedestrians, so I'll bump it up to PAS 3 in gear 5 and do about 15 miles an hour down there. This is the Island Grill, a very nice restaurant. They have a little veranda out there you can eat on, or indoors with some nice picture windows. Very good food. I just was looking down at my phone to make sure I had the Map My Ride turned on to map this ride. The mapping program in the display, or as controlled by the controller of the Cityrun, has some quirks to it where it's actually reset. And now if you turn the unit off, it resets the odometer. So I'm thinking it also resets the mapping. And I've told them about this, and I'm waiting to see if they have a fix or an alternative setting so I don't lose it. But in the meantime, Map My Ride does an excellent job. No problems at all. And it not only maps your ride, but I think it gives you a more accurate distance. It always says on the Heybike display, I've ridden more miles than the Map My Ride or Google Maps say I have. So there's something about maybe in the firmware that says I have a 27-inch wheel, but the way it's picking up my distance is not quite correct. So I'm thinking if I change it to a different setting, perhaps that would correct the odometer reading. But whatever I do or don't do, it seems there's always a problem, because when you turn off the controller, it resets the odometer, which is really useless. They did that to accommodate some people, but they used to have a manual reset in the app, and that worked well. But let's see if this one works. On your left. Thank you. I put that little Clarabelle, and now you folks probably don't know who Clarabelle was, but when I was a child, long time ago, that was a TV show, and Buffalo Bob Smith, Howdy Doody, one of the characters was Clarabelle. It was a clown that had a little box in front of him on his waist, and attached to the box was a little horn that's just like this horn, and you probably can see it now on my dashboard. And when I squeeze it, that makes a Clarabelle sound, but it seems to be louder than the Heybike horn. Well, sound that for you. Hear that? Not very good. And people jump when you sound that, but when you hit the Clarabelle horn, they don't jump. And there's an impatient driver. Guy was letting me get through the parking lot entrance, and the guy behind him just said, I don't like that. I'm going to hunk you and go around you in the opposing traffic lane, which is what he did. Another good restaurant, The Net by George. Really good seafood. Oh, another thing I've done, just to let you know, about 2 months ago, I started eating only vegetarian food, and not necessarily vegan, but most of the food that you get, if you're vegetarian in the store, is rated as vegan. I guess they do that to accommodate both a vegetarian and a vegan. So I've been eating that, and I lost 12 pounds. I've now plateaued a little bit, but as I'm getting back to riding more, I think I'll knock down into the 180s. And since I've been eating vegetarian food, I miss all those wonderful meals at the Net and the Island Grill, and those wonderful wasabi scallops and wasabi salmon, delicious stuffed flounder. And how about another restaurant we're going to come up to is the Craves. It used to be called something different. It's now called Craves, name of the owner, and he has a prime rib in there that's at over an inch thick and probably 10 inches across. The biggest prime rib I've ever eaten, and with their au jus sauce, it's absolutely delicious and at a very fair price. So that's a restaurant we'll be passing. I'll point it out to you. And further down, we'll see the Beachfront Grill, and that restaurant owner has a special, again, the lobster tails, and again, prime rib, and all sorts of specials. He has specials for veterans on certain days, and he's just gotten the contract to take over the restaurant at the Palm Harbor Golf Course. It's the oldest golf course in Palm Coast, but very well maintained, very busy, and for the amount of golfers that play on there, they keep that golf course in excellent condition. And the previous restaurant owner was told he had to leave for God only knows why, to somebody's advantage, and now this guy's going to take over there. So the guy who had been in there and had to leave bought the building beside the restaurant he has at the beach, which is called the Golden Lion, and the food's just okay. Good food, not great. And he opened a restaurant he calls Next Door, and Next Door has excellent food, and it's a big hit. Here's the beach front grill. I guess you can see it there. And they have a bar right here in front. So when you sit at the bar, you look at the ocean, and that's always nice. And there's food in there they say is good. I've had the pizza, didn't like it at all. It was just not a pizza I'm used to at all. And I had something else there, a salad, no great shakes. But the people who've had their regular dinners say the food is decent. So now we're heading down A1A along the ocean. I guess you can see the ocean there. All right. Waves are moderate today, probably, I'm going to say 3 feet, maybe 4 feet, something like that. As I've mentioned before, Flagler Beach is known as a surfing destination. It's one of the 3 best surfing destinations on the Atlantic Ocean of the United States. They have about 3 national tournaments here, surfing tournaments. And that's always exciting to see the surfers. Many of these houses, as you can see, that house is just being built, are new. And along with the housing boom I told you about up in Palm Coast, Flagler Beach is also having a housing boom. The difference being they're building single and like 2 occupancy homes here that mostly become rentals during our season. Now, we have 2 seasons. We have a winter season, but because we're in northern Florida, the water isn't that warm. So the people who come here, you know, still go bathing, but I know it's not as comfortable as in the summer season, which is the big season here on Flagler Beach. As you noticed, the homes and the houses are only 2 and maybe 3 story, and that's by ordinance. Where Flagler Beach said no new construction will be over 2 stories, or it can replace the 2 or 3 story structure that was there. I think it can only be 3 stories at a max, and it can only replace a building that was there at that height, a maximum of 2 or 3 stories. Now here we're coming to Gamble Rogers recreational area. We're going to head in there and see if they want to charge us or not, just to ride around. And if they do, we'll just head back. So we're still in PAS 3 and Gear 5, and traveling about 15 miles an hour, plus and minus 15. So far we've traveled just under 9 miles. And once we get into Gamble Rogers, I'll turn off the camera till we talk to some people here. Actually, we can go across the street. I think we'll do that. And this is the rental area. You can see here they have RVs in that area. Here they have a little cul-de-sac. Maybe we can stop and take a picture of the ocean. I'm not going to walk any further because they don't want you to walk on the dunes. So what I'll do is walk up here and park the bike. See, now here is where I can put my controller in PAS1, and I should be able to walk the bike. You see, it's just giving me enough speed that it's a brisk walk, and that's nice. So I'll park the bike here. And take a picture from the beach overlook. Now there are some people down there. Probably can see them fishing, some sunbathers. And some people fishing here. And here comes a fisherman with a cart right behind that boardwalk. You can barely see him. But that's the ocean today, here in Flagler Beach. Again, we're between seasons, waiting for the summer people to arrive, and we'll be on our way. Can you see the red flag that's flying? That means there's probably an undertow today, so they want you to be careful. How you drive, how you swim. The brain's a little soft here. Anyway, they want you to be careful how you swim, and be careful and mindful of the undertow possibilities. So let's see if we can go into Gamble Rogers, if they allow that. Or if they want me to pay, then I'll just turn around. But at least you got to look at the ocean and Flagler Beach. Look, there's a path there we could go on. Interesting. I think they'll allow us to go in here. All right, let's see what we can do this way.
How you doing?
Hi, how are you? Good day today, isn't it? Yeah. So this is Gamble Rogers Park. And they have evidently canoes that you can rent. And they may be kayaks, I'm not sure. That looks like they're, I don't know. There may be canoes. So, yeah. And they have a launch over there, that way. And it looks like they have a boat launch over that way ahead of us. Nice picnic tables here. Very nice that they allow you to come in here on your bicycle or walking without having to pay a fee. That's just a parking fee. Let's see, one-way exit, huh? I think we'll go back onto the sidewalk. And there must be something down there, but that's for the staff only. So that is Gamble Rogers State Park. Another beautiful place in Florida. I must say they have wonderful national and state parks here. Most state parks, all except for two, require you to pay a parking fee or an entry fee. And one of them is Hoonton Landing, where you don't have to pay, and I believe the other one may be Blue Springs, but I'm not sure.
Oh, watch out, dude.
No, I'm good. I've gotten good at this. People are always concerned when a bike comes by like that. But very friendly people today. So that was Gamble Rogers State Park, and we're going to be heading back home. My battery still has over 50%. 50 volts on the battery. It started out at 54 when it's fully charged, and I've been able to do trips and still have 50 volts after going quite a few miles. But today we're going against the wind and things like that. So let me stop here a moment. I want to check the video, make sure everything is correct, and then we'll continue on a trip back home. Okay, evidently, in looking at the camera, it put it into photo mode. So now we should be back into record mode, video, and we'll record our trip back to our location, our starting location. Mileage 9.34 miles. So we should be doing about 18 to 20 miles today, depending on how we go. There's another public access area. You can see parking is allowed whenever you are on the outside of the white line on either side of the road. You're allowed to park, with the exception of a few places that have signs up where no parking is allowed, but they're just a few places. And most parking here is free. Oh. Look down a minute, got a little wobbly. So most parking here in Flagler Beach has been free for the 13 years we've lived here. And that's always been nice. Now they have a proposal to charge for parking about every 5 years. And typically it's soundly defeated, because people know that we get visitors to spend money in Flagler Beach for one of the reasons of getting free parking. So that's always nice. If they charge for parking, I'm sure people would still come, but it wouldn't be the same throwback to the 70s we have here now. See, the buildings are all low, and we'll see that as we get to the center part of town. And you'll see all the buildings are very low. Good, we're still recording on my app, the Not My Ride app. We're doing almost 16 miles an hour in PAS3 because the wind is to our back, and you can hear how much more quiet it is than when we were traveling here, coming south. Now we're heading north. So let's talk a little bit about different hobbies. My photography hobby was also a full-time business for about 3.5 years. Got out of it for a little bit, went back to industry. I used to design control panels, inspection control panels that would have cameras to check the vision, placement, size, shape, color of objects, and also barcode readers, which would check that the cardboard that would be attached to this blister pack that contained the product was in fact for the product that was in the blister. And I built those for Hartz Mountain and a few other companies. And I also did small inspection systems that I sold to pharmaceuticals, and they would move those from production line to production line as needed. because not all production lines are running at the same time. And they would buy 7 or 8 of those from me. That was when I went back to business, just before I retired. I had my own business. But I did get out of photography, go back to industry, and a year or so later, my minister asked me if I wouldn't videotape his daughter's wedding at our local church. And that was in New Jersey. And I said, sure, I'll be glad to do it. But for me to do that, I had to get 2 cameras, and at the time they were VHS. I wanted to go Betamax, but since I had some of the VHS equipment, I used that, highest quality. And I bought 3 recorders or playback units so I could take 2 of the tapes and merge them into 1 tape. And I could add music to it, and I could add photos and things like that. And I'd never done this before, so you can imagine the research I went through to be able to produce something that looked professional and quality, you know, the quality I would want to put my name on. So I got it all done. Took me a while, and I told the wedding couple, which was my minister's daughter and her husband. Now, her name was Jane Modine, and his name was Dave Coulier from Full House. So you can imagine all the celebrities that came to this wedding. Of course, they all stayed in New York hotels and had limos that brought them out to the New Jersey church. But I got the thing done with all the funny things these people had to say about the wedding couple, who knew them well. And let's see. So anyway, I told the minister and the couple, I said, I finished the video and I'm ready to give it to you. And he said, well, what we're going to do, we're going to show it to the entire congregation at once. We're going to get the whole congregation into our parlor, which is a big room we use for multi-function room. And we went in there, and I had to show my first video wedding to all of these people. And I did. Must say I wasn't completely calm doing it, but by the time it was finished, they gave me a round of applause, and many people even stood up to applaud the video I had done. And from that moment, for the next 3 years, I became a videographer, because everybody wanted me to do videos of their weddings based upon what I had done for my minister's daughter. And that's what I did. So you just never can tell the ebbs and flows of life. And eventually I retired here to Florida 13 years ago. I decided I was going to get involved with photography and see if I could teach some people, and I did for about, I guess, about 8 years, 10 years, something like that, 9 years. I taught photography classes, both in a gallery, which I helped start, and also in my home when the gallery was no longer available to me. And there are many photographers now in this area that are award-winning photographers who do masterful photography. And I maybe had a little to do with that, just in the fact I was a good catalyst to show them the right basics: color, lighting, composition, interest, movement, all of those items. And they certainly went on to practice that and to work with other photographers and have become absolutely masterful photographers, top-notch professionals. So that was nice. Then I realized I had taught a lot of people. I felt like a sponge that had been wrung out completely, and said, you know, I'm not going to teach anymore. There are a lot more people who are teaching, including many of the people I taught were now teaching, and rightly so. They were good, and they created a whole batch of quality photographers. So I decided not to do that anymore, And another thing I did, they had asked me to be the photographer for the local playhouse. The Flagler Playhouse wanted to record the plays in pictures, not necessarily video, but in photos. So I would go there on the dress rehearsal night on a Thursday, and I would photograph the dress rehearsal and then prepare the pictures. I made the pictures, I changed them a bit, where the lighting of these local playhouses looks too bright. You can see the backgrounds too much and it takes attention away from the actors. I made the lighting look more like Broadway lighting. I removed the lighting from the background many times, and the pictures that they got were better than any picture anybody else could take. Eventually, I hired a friend of mine, Charlie, to be a photographer with me so we could have two identical cameras working together, taking photographs, and then I could merge the pictures together into one presentation, which I did, and we did that for a couple of years. So I guess I did a year and a half by myself and a couple of years with Charlie, and eventually I had to move on. I had had enough of that, and I don't know if Charlie continued to do it. He might have done it for another few months because they gave us, you know, season tickets for doing it, and that was good enough payment for me. And then we just went on to other things. So my latest interest is e-bike riding. I always loved bicycle riding. I have been a bicycle rider since I was probably, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. Always rode a bicycle, regular pedal bike. And after I did that, I got into a 21 speed, and I was always a bike rider, loved it. Came to Florida and I rode quite a lot with my wife. We went up to Matanzas Inlet, 30-mile round trip. You know, for us, that was pretty good. I was in my 70s. Now I'm in my later 70s. But then we stopped riding a lot. We gained weight, and we just weren't riding as much. I guess trying to go up the bridges were just the most difficult part. You know, going on the flat here and the sidewalks and the trails is nothing, but the bridges were getting to be a little tough, and I could do it, but it was getting tough. So we looked at each other one day after I visited my son in California, and he had let me ride an e-bike. I said, what do you think? Should we get a bike? And they said, oh, look at it. And I did my research, and of all the bikes that I could get, thank you, that I could purchase on Amazon. I didn't realize we had a local dealer for Heybike here in Palm Coast. Of course, Heybike didn't let me know that until after I bought it from Amazon. And I decided Heybike was going to be a good manufacturer, have a nice bike, and I would, for the money, it was it's cheaper now. They've actually taken the price and reduced it by $300 from where I bought it almost a few months ago. So long story short is that we got ourselves the e-bikes, and we've been riding the city runs because that's the type of riding we do. It's around the city and trails, and it can even go on hard packed sand because it has 2.5-inch tires, which are nice. So we decided that's what I would do, and we bought them. And of course there was some infantile problems. You know, infantile problems are problems that happen when you first get something or use it or whatever. And we now have everything settled out pretty good, and we're riding quite a lot. So now we're back at the junction of Flagler Avenue in Flagler Beach, and Moody Boulevard, which is Route 100, State Route 100, will be on our left here. You can see that's the Flagler Bridge, the entrance to it. And we'll be heading up the Flagler Bridge again. So my newest interest is e-bikes, and I've taken this apart, put it back together, replaced parts on it that needed to be replaced, and right now it's riding 100%, and I'm having a ball. Now, come on, what are you doing? Doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, we're putting it up to PAS 4 and speed 5. See how we do. So far so good. Easy pedaling. That's one of the reasons we got the e-bikes. For this reason alone, it would have been beautiful. But we can now easily pedal up these high bridges that go over the intracoastal waterway, and makes the rest of the riding simple. Nice thing about e-bikes, you can lower the assist level to where you're really pedaling a bike. And this bike weighs 62 pounds without me. So with me, it's quite heavy. And when you turn the PAS level down, you are pedaling quite a bit, and you're putting some exertion into it, which is great. But at times when you're going up a bridge or you're just tired, you can increase the PAS level and just let the bike assist you more. So for those reasons, we chose e-bikes, and now we ride them quite often. Well, there was the intracoastal again. I didn't stop this time. And now we're heading down, so I'm going to put this in gear 6. Now gear 7. At 22 miles an hour, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 miles an hour. A new record. A new record. And not only did we set a new record, but I did it in PAS 4 in 7th gear. Not PAS 5 in 7th, which I used to set the previous record of 29.8. So I'll have to look here at my fastest speed on Map My Ride, but it was about 31.5 that I saw on my Heybike display, and of course it should say about 5 miles less on the Map My Ride. We'll see what it says. I'll post it in the video. So now we're heading back on Roberts Road. I guess I haven't seen enough of those wonderful apartments and all that area stripped bare. Right here, there's a dog park. Very nice. We have some very nice dog parks for people. We have a lot of dogs in this area, especially in my development. People just love having another entity in the house. I had a cat for 18 years, just died last year, about a year ago. And he was with me the 13 years I was in Florida. She was. Her name was Spirit. All right, now you can see here. So what they seem to have done is ground up the trees into mulch. In other places, they were burning the trees, and I thought burning was no longer legal. So I'm glad to see that all these trees were burned up. I mean, were not burned up and either ground into mulch, or perhaps it's mulch they're just putting down on the soil to give whatever they plant here, the grass and trees they'll put in, a chance to grow in this what are just barren sand. That's probably what it is. I don't think they ground the trees up. I think they just put piles and piles of mulch in to make some kind of a growing soil that plantings can grow in, take hold. So we're doing about 18 miles an hour in PAS 4 and gear 5. Very comfortable. Putting a little effort into it, but nothing to strain my legs. And when we get up here to the shipbuilding place, which I believe is Boston Whaler, I'll stop again just to check my battery, see how it's doing. So that was the story of my photography efforts. Of course, there were many more funny weddings and things I did and professional shoots. But for the most part, it was 55 years in photography in one form or another, whether 3.5 years full-time or 3 more years videography, or just teaching for years and years, probably taught about 20 years. And then other endeavors. I decided, I think I've had enough of photography, and that's why all my equipment is for sale. It's like in brand new condition. I always I keep everything I own in brand new condition, except my Mustang. I need to wash that. Feel a little guilty. So I'll wash that today probably. So if anybody's interested in my cameras and lenses, lights, I have strobe lights, you know, on-camera lighting, please let me know, leave me a comment, and I'll get right back to you about that. All right, we just passed the Boston Whaler place and I did not stop. Everything seems to be recording okay. And we're moving very well, so I'm delighted. I still have 49.7 volts on the battery. I don't think the battery charges when you run the bike, but it certainly will display a higher voltage as you pedal faster. So it preserves whatever voltage you have on the battery by using a little more pedal power. And the pedal power I'm putting in here is not difficult. It's just a nice easy cadence, which is what you would like. And we're going to cross the culvert here to get on the sidewalk, because I really don't trust the bike lane, although maybe I should. All right, I'll take the bike lane. You talk me into it, so anything happens, let me know, or I'll let you know. You will know. So I've just done, according to Map My Ride, 15 miles an hour, 15 miles on this trip. And I'm going to turn my headlight and tail light on because I'm in the bike lane. Takes a little bit of power from the battery, but not much, all LED, and it's certainly safer. When you hit the brakes, the rear light flashes red, and of course you also have the turn signals, which are nice. But they have some nice features on the Heybike Cityrun. The app alone, which allows you to adjust each power level. And let's talk about the power levels on the Cityrun and the new version of the app. They first had 3 ranges that you could set: a 0 to 3, or 1 to 3. So I guess there's actually 6 ranges. 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. 0 to 9 or 1 to 9. And you couldn't adjust the ranges in any of those settings. So what they came to realize is that you really didn't need a 0 to 9 or 1 to 9. Nobody used it. So they had removed those, and now you can go 0 to 3, 1 to 3, 0 to 5, 1 to 5, and I keep it in 0 to 5, and you could adjust the speed in each range, where it picks up and how fast it will go in that level. And that is worth its weight in gold. You hear me, Heybike? That is a very, very nice feature. And the only thing I would ask you to do is please give me an indicator to let me know I still have my turn signal on. And I'd appreciate that. Maybe a little icon can flash or something can flash in the display to let me know it's still on. You don't have to add anything. Just let us know what will flash, and that'd be good enough for me. Well, so far riding in the bike lane is fine. It's wide enough to be useful, and we have lots of grass if we have to, if we see something's going to happen, to get out of the bike lane and not get sideswiped, if that, God forbid, should ever happen.